So what we're demonstrating today is Dexter's improved user interface. At the moment, it's not really on the pretty side, to say the least. But they'll be, leaving that on the back burner for now. Right now, it's just a task of getting things working before we go ahead and give it a nice little graphics overlay and all of that stuff. So ignore that for now. Keep with me. So what we've got here, it looks a lot different from our last video, definitely, right? The LifeX button still there, and the dock button, still there, but everything else is new. What we have above the chat box is probably one of the nicest features that we have on Dexter at the moment. If you have a Fitbit account, which is a application for recording like fitness and scheduling activities and weight loss and all this other stuff. You can connect your Fitbit account to Dexter, and through Fitbit, Dexter can gather plenty of information to work with you. He isn't dependent on the Fitbit, however. So, he just uses it to gather the information initially, and that is a dependency. But, if you disconnect your Fitbit at any point, he will keep track of that information for you. So he does kind of, become independent in some aspect, but, not totally dependent. Anyway, moving on. So the Fitbit on my wrist that I'm wearing right now is a Flex 2. So it doesn't record heart rate, but as you can see, it does have a beats per minute counter. So we have tested this with other Fitbits, and the beats per minute counter is a live feed to your Fitbit. So if, my heart was beating at 60 beats per minute, it would say BPM 60, right? But at the moment, I'm using a Fitbit which doesn't record heart rate, so the default setting that Fitbit respond back to Dexter is just 115. So yeah, ignore that. BMI is, simple calculation between height, your weight, height, and gender. As you can see, my BMI is 18.51, 1 point away from not being perfect, but I'm just in the green, so that's great. Fitness, okay, so the Fitbit step counter isn't that accurate. So what I found was, I could be typing away, and the Fitbit would be taking that for like arm movements and body movements, and the step counter would slowly be going up. So, it would count like 200 steps just by me like typing on my keyboard for like 2 or 3 hours. And I did a little bit of calculations and compared like how much calories does steps burn, how much calories do all these things burn that it's counting these as. And what we've done is we've used virtual intelligence learning to calculate the step counter and other activities such as like your GPS location. If you move a certain distance and it's believed that you're walking, not like in a car or on a motorbike or cycling, or well, actually, if you're cycling, that is counted. But yeah, so using some of all of this information that it gathers, instead we're going to be presented with a fitness score. So the fitness score is the replacement for the step counter that Fitbit uses, and I believe personally that this is a much better system than the step counter. So the step counter is effectively presenting itself as how many steps you have taken, whereas the fitness score reevaluates all of the information that the step counter takes and then uses it in a way which is more accurate to what it's calculating. So my fitness score can go up just by me sitting down and doing stuff, if I'm moving my arms around, but it's going to go up slowly and by small increments based on how many kind of based on how many calories those movements are burning, So, if I'm typing away on my computer and stuff like that, I am actually burning calories by moving my arms and stuff like that, but it's going to be a very small amount, and it's going to be a small fitness score. But regardless, the fitness score is always going to increase. But then, of course, if I go outside and I go for a run, I go for a few mile run, my fitness score is going to go from 614 at what it's at right now. It's probably going to be about 4,000, 5,000 when I come back from a run, right? So, and that's 614. That's been from the past 11 hours of me doing absolutely nothing. So as you can see, it's just, well, actually, I've been walking back and forth to the kitchen for, making a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or whatever, So I do really honestly believe that this is a much better approach to handling this value than Fitbit have actually done themselves. So maybe they should talk to me about that, and I'll tell them what algorithm I'm using. Anyway, moving on. So calories. This is 778 at the moment. This is how many calories I have burnt today. As you can see, I haven't been doing anything today. I've been just coding for non-stop since I woke up. So yeah, 778. It comes to this conclusion based on your fitness score, and also includes the base amount of calories burnt just from your everyday activities. So every day, the human body burns around 1,000 to 1,400 calories based on your body weight, your fitness, and brain activity, and all of this stuff. So on average, it's about 1,200 calories burned a day by default. So it will increment. Basically, there's a counter going from 0 to 1,200 in the time that you're awake. From the course of the day, I mean. So yeah, and then it will also increase calories burnt counter by your fitness score. So the more fitness you do, of course, you're burning more calories. Blah blah blah. So it's not going to be completely accurate, but it's going to be pretty damn accurate. It's reliable enough to go off, but then I wouldn't take it scientifically or medically accurate kind of stuff. So it's still really good, and I actually do believe that this is probably better than Fitbit's actual calorie burn calculator. I understand that, my wireless headset just turned off because it was inactive for so long. God damn it. Anyway, moving on. Fitbit's burnt calorie counter, I understand that, they have to abide by legal issues because you pay for their product. So that maybe there's things limiting what they can actually tell you. But obviously with Dexter, we've got free range to, manipulate those numbers however we want, right? So, I do think that this is also a more valuable resource or a more valuable value maybe than Fitbit's. Sleep, this is completely unaltered. It just grabs the information from your Fitbit and what your Fitbit records on sleep counter. As you can see, I'm at 0.0 right now. If you think that's a bug because the feature hasn't been implemented yet, you're wrong. I actually haven't slept at all. I've been drinking coffee and programming since ungodly hour. So yeah, that's my life. And charge medium, that's just the battery life on my Fitbit, which is surprisingly helpful because I don't want to have to go into the app whenever I want to find out if my battery's going to die or not, because the Flex 2, for example, doesn't have a display on it, so there's no way of actually telling you what the battery level is, and it doesn't give you a notification when it runs out of battery. So if it runs out of battery, it just ran out of battery, and that's your fault for not noticing. So I thought that was a pretty useful feature. And if once the charge value drops to low, which is about 24 hours left of battery, Dexter will send you a message on your phone saying, hey, by the way, your Fitbit's low on battery, you should probably charge it soon. And then once it's empty, he'll send you another message saying, by the way, your Fitbit's dead, you need to recharge it now. So very useful features all in all. I actually didn't like my Fitbit. I thought it was a waste of money. And then once I got into the API and started playing around with it and implementing it into Dexter, really like it. Really, the changes that I made to it to suit, me personally, I guess, but I think it would suit anybody better like this. Very nice, very nice. And I intend to add more information as we go along. It's just, kind of coming up with the idea of what information to use and how to manipulate it first before you can really do much with it. But other than that, once you come up with the idea, it's quite easy to, just create the algorithm to handle the job for you. And so there's a couple of new features. Did I go over the LifeX feature? If not, I'll go over it again. So this little button here is amazing, right? This is one button, but it does about 6 different things. So if I press it once, my light is going to come on. I don't have my webcam turned on, so I can't show you. Damn. Oh yeah, I did show this in the smart home demonstration, smart home integration V2. Yeah, if you want to see that, go check out that video. So if you press the button, it will toggle your smart lights on and off. But if I hold it down, then it will either make them brighter or dimmer, depending on their brightness or dimness value. So if it's relatively dim, it will make them bright, and if they're relatively bright, then it will make them dim. Simple enough, just by holding it down. So one button, and it handles all of your light functions, which is really nice. Keeps the UI nice and clean, lots of space for more functions later. This button here is very nice. At the moment, I can say to Dexter, hey, buddy, always listen to me, or enable hyperlisten, or enable conversation mode. And all of these features will mean that if he hears me say something, and particularly me, not somebody else in the room, if he hears me say something, then he'll respond to it immediately. Whereas if conversation mode or always listen or hyperlisten, whatever you want to call it, he has many names for it. If the mode is disabled, then it requires you to say his name for him to, respond to what you said. So if I'm using him in desktop mode, I'll turn on always listen mode, and then I can just talk to him and ask him questions while I'm, playing a game or something like that. I can be playing, like, I don't know, Mark of the Ninja, for example. I can say, hey, Dexter, how do you solve this puzzle on, this level at this point? And he'll bring up a Google page and say, like, hey, this link, I think I found your answer. Most of the time, it's surprisingly accurate. Anyway, it works really nicely for situations like that. And finally, the dock button is, it just removes the borders, makes the window borderless. So if I tell him to go small,
okay.
So we just got the chat window. I can put him in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen here, hit dock, and he docks quite nicely. Takes up less space on the screen, really, just because if I want him, have him sitting there quite nicely. And that's another feature I don't know if I've showed off. We've got go small, go big, okay. And finally, full screen.
Okay.
So that the whole UI scales really nicely, or at least I think it scales really nicely. So it will have plenty of room for adding in new features. Like as you saw, if I tell him to go small again.
Okay.
Oh, that was a bit glitchy, but anyway, as you'll see, he doesn't show me my Fitbit stuff because there isn't enough space on the screen at the moment, and it's not set as a high priority. So he just, the only things that he knows are high priority at the moment are the chat history, the input box, and the smart home controller button. So that's all he's going to show me when I tell him to go small. But if I tell him to go big, he has more space on the screen, so he can fill in the secondary and tertiary widgets. He'll put them on the screen and scale them nicely. So also, if I take this application, if I take Dexter 04048A, yeah, 04048 is what we're on at the moment. If I put him on my laptop, which has a much smaller screen than my PC, the window size will be relatively, as like a percentage, it will be about the same size on the screen, and all of the widgets will scale down too. But if the screen gets small enough, he stops scaling it so that it gets to a point where, if you have a really tiny screen like on a mobile, if he makes the window take up like 33% of the screen, then the text is going to be tiny. Of course, he's smarter than that. Really works really nicely. Just a couple of lines of math, really. That's all that's behind it. And the scaling works really nice. So, if your screen size is small enough, it will stop scaling it. But, if you go into a 4K screen, really large screen, one of the problems that I've had with 4K screens is that, same inch ratio, same size as the current monitor I'm using, which is this current monitor is a 1080p monitor. But of course, there's 4 times as many pixels, or is it twice as many pixels? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But so text, like this text would be like tiny text on the screen. But Dexter accommodates for that and scales relative to your resolution and screen size. So on a 4K monitor, this display window would probably look about the exact same, which is great. As you can see, my fitness score and my calories burned have increased as I have been doing this video. The fitness score has increased because I've been waving my hands about like a fucking madman as I've been talking to nobody I'm not talking to nobody, but nobody who can see me, and I'm still moving my arms around expressing stuff. But I'm a mad programmer, so that's what we do. And the calories burned, as I told you, the fitness score increases and the calories increase over time throughout the day as it goes on. As you can see, fitness score 745. If you think it's a buggy situation that the fitness score has increased by a small amount, just by me waving my arms about, it's not a bad thing. The fitness score is a small increment. Like what you should really be aiming for is about 15,000 fitness score a day, which I have tested this rigorously. And if you can get to a 15,000 fitness score every day, that's like a full 9 to 5 job with a little bit of exercise in the morning or something like that, with like walking in between like bus to work and all of that stuff. So the fitness score, if it does seem like it's increasing, it's just because the numbers are large. I'm thinking of putting it like a divide them by 100, maybe. I don't know, maybe divide them by 10, so they might be more accurately represented then. But yeah, and as you can see, the out of 926, that's my average. My headset turned off again. The out of 926, that's my average daily fitness score. Now, that might say something. That's not saying anything really bad about me. I hope that doesn't make me come off as really lazy. It's actually just because I've been clearing the database really regularly because, for testing purposes, because, the whole process was very buggy, and every time I created or repurposed the algorithm, you had to delete the whole history and backlog of data because it was all kind of incompatible with a new algorithm. But now it's perfect. Now it's working great and fine. Now that I can actually leave it and let it record information, so that's fine. Don't get the impression that I'm a lazy slob. So yeah, that's Dexter 0448 for you. Kind of not that interesting if you don't have a Fitbit, but it's a really nice feature. If you don't have a Fitbit 2, the Fitbit integration won't be displayed. In fact, it won't even be loaded with Dexter. He will not load anything that is dependent on something that you do not have. So, for example, if I go and unplug my LifeX light bulb right now, the LifeX button will disappear from the screen, and the text bar will just fill up the whole bottom row because there's no widgets there. If I disconnect my Fitbit account from Dexter, the Fitbit widget will disappear and it won't even come up on the screen. And next time when I load Dexter, that piece of code won't even be read. So that works really nicely too. So because I was considering the fact that, if you add in a bunch of real world dependencies that people aren't going to have and people aren't going to use, it's just going to be clutter on the screen that means nothing to them. So I've already that's taken care of. Don't worry about it. Although, to be fair, the screen does look kind of bland if you don't have any add-ons. But there's plenty of place. There is a lot of blank space on the large interface at the moment, and it's all what do you call it? Real estate. It's all paid for and bought real estate. It's just the features that are going to fill these gaps are prototypes at the moment. So can't really. There's nothing to show off at the moment. It's just code. But yeah, there'll be plenty of new features coming. Really cool stuff in the works. So stick around for that, and I'll see you in the next update video.